Story is I found just recently, so it's a new story. So you are my first ever audience to hear this one, and it comes from India, but it really did strike me that it could come from pretty much any culture in the world that has a large epic. So from Gananga to Ragnarok, if you're dealing with Norse or any of the Greek or Romans or Beowulf. So, but I'm going to tell it with the traditional story in it. So Deepa might tell me later that I've pronounced everything wrong, and in which case I do apologize. So as all of us here know, anybody who's told a story or listened to a story knows that stories contain great wisdom and great culture. And there was a woman once who lived in a small village in India who knew exactly this. She knew that stories were filled with wisdom and culture, and so she felt a little bit sad when her husband was not interested in stories. He was a good man. He worked hard each and every single day to bring home money for the family, but he worked so hard that when he came home at night, he was tired. And so when he was asked if he wanted to go and listen to stories or if he wanted to tell a story, he said, no, 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 not now. And when the children would ask him 1,000 questions, he really could not have the patience to deal with them. And so the good wife, well, when she went to go and speak to the other women of the village, she would get quite upset because there would they all be talking about their husband, sharing stories and how their husbands would tell stories all night long filled with wisdom and culture and tell stories to the children. And she felt quite sad. So when she heard that the storyteller would be passing through their village and spending a few nights telling stories, she ran home immediately. She found her husband and she started to beg and plead. And when that didn't work, she started to nag and moan until finally he agreed he would go and listen to the storyteller. Well, the first day came around and he'd worked hard all day. He was tired, but oh, anything to stop her moaning and her nagging, her begging and her pleading. And so off he went to the village square to go and listen. And there was everybody there all throughout the village, all sat down. And he decided that he would sit at the back, you know, in case he didn't like it. That way he could sneak away early. And he sat and he listened as the storyteller began. Once there was a 10-headed demon king called Ravana, who had been given a great boon that no god nor spirit could ever harm him. And so he committed great crimes against the gods untouched. But amongst the gods, there was Lord Vishnu. And he knew that only a mortal hand could get Ravana. And so Lord Vishnu decided that he would be born as a mortal man. Now, it was around about this time that there was a king of Ayodhya who, although he had 3 wives, did not have any children. And so he asked his sages what they might advise that he might become a father and gain an heir for his kingdom. Well, the sages, they rubbed their long beards and scratched their heads until finally they decided that their king should create a great fire sacrifice, so big, so large, so bold that the very gods would see it. And so that's what the king did. And it just so happens that Vishnu looked down, saw this great sacrifice, saw the king, saw the kingdom, and decided that that's where he would be born. And 9 months later, the king's first wife gave birth to Rama, Vishnu immortalized. And so there he was, Rama, the mortal baby of the king. But on that same day, the 2 other wives of the king, they also gave birth to sons. And so Rama had 3 other brothers. Now, whilst the storyteller started to tell about the childhood of Rama and his friendship with his brother Lakshmana, and how they grew and went on many great adventures, the tone of the storyteller, that voice, the rhythm, started to soothe the good husband. He started to until he fell asleep. And when he fell asleep, his jaw dropped open. And he stayed like that for the entire story until the end of the storytelling, and people started to drift away, and small children, as was the tradition, would go around giving out sweet treats. Well, when one young lad passed the old sleeping man, he popped a sweet in the good husband's mouth, which woke him up. And so he started to make his way home. When he got there, his wife was waiting for him. Husband, husband, did you listen to the stories? Did you enjoy it? How did you find it? Do tell. And the husband sucked upon that sweet and said, I found it sweet. Ah, she said, you're getting cultured. This is good. You must go back again tomorrow night. Really? He said, yes, she said. And so the next night, after working hard all day, he went back. And this time he started listening to the storyteller. And as the storyteller told the tale of how Rama met his soon-to-be wife, Sita, oh, the story just overcome the good husband, and he yawned and he fell asleep, and his head drooped and his shoulders rounded and his back curled. And it was just at that point that a small boy came running into the village square. He was late for the stories and he was desperately trying to find somewhere to sit, but there was nowhere. And he didn't want to be right at the back because he couldn't hear and he couldn't see. And it was then that the small boy saw the crouched husband and thought, he'll make a good seat. And he clambered up on top of him, and the boy sat and listened to the stories all the way through until the end. And the boy clambered off, and in doing so, accidentally kicked that poor old husband, who woke up with a start. And now his arms were aching, his back was breaking, and he made his way home. And his wife was waiting for him once again and said, so how did you find the stories tonight? And he said, oh, wife, they were heavy. They were so very heavy. She said, this is good. You are getting cultured. You must go again tomorrow night. Really? Yes. And so he went the next night. But this time he knew there was no point in him sitting. He was so tired, so exhausted. He simply led at the back of the audience. He led down and he started to drift to sleep as the storyteller told of how Rama and his wife Sita and his brother had been taken off into the forest. They were exiled, and a great demoness had come to try and steal Rama away. Well, whilst the old man was sleeping, his mouth was wide open, and a dog who had been making his way through the crowd with great big muddy paws stepped in the man's mouth. He woke up with a start, and the stories had just finished, and so he made his way home. And when his wife this time asked him how the stories were this night, he said, ah, they are dirty, they are disgusting. And his wife looked at him and said, what? Dirty? Disgusting? What stories have you been listening to? And it was then that the man had to confess that actually the last 3 nights he had gone and he had been so tired and he had fallen asleep. His wife was furious. She said, I sent you to go and get culture. I sent you to go and get wisdom. Tomorrow night we will go together and I will keep you awake. And so that 4th night they went, and no sitting at the back this time. Oh no, the wife dragged him right to the front, and there they sat, and with a bony finger poised and ready, every time his eyes drooped, she dug at him, and so he woke up. But he found that as he listened, the characters filled his mind, the words swirled around and created such images that the sleep slipped away from him, and now he was engaged. He was in the story. He lived every moment of it. He felt it in every part of him. So much so that when the storyteller came to the part where Rama and his brother had been looking everywhere for Sita, his wife, to find out where Ravana had taken her, and that they had made friends with the chief of the monkey army, Hanuman, that now Hanuman had been given a ring from Rama to go and find Sita to prove that this messenger was from Rama. Well, Hanuman, he had searched all over, and he came to the shores, and he looked across the great ocean, and he saw that there was an island, and on that island that belonged to Ravana, that was where Sita was being kept. And so Hanuman, with that ring in his hand, he gripped his feet fiercely in the sand, and he made himself enormous and leapt into the air, and he flew across the ocean. But it was a hot night in that village, and the storyteller was wiping sweat away from his brow, and the husband wiped sweat from his brow across his hand, and his hands got sweaty, and the husband started to worry about Hanuman holding that ring. And just at that point in the story, Hanuman, flying over the sea, dropped the ring down and down and down and down and splosh into the ocean. And when Hanuman landed on the island, now he had no token to give Sita to prove that he was a messenger from Rama. It was at that point that the husband leapt up and said, "Hanuman, wait, wait, I will get the ring." And he leapt out of his seat down into the ocean, and he swam deep down to the bottom of the ocean floor. And there he found the ring, and he swam up and up and up. And he leapt out of the water, and he landed on the island right in front of Hanuman, and he passed him the ring, and he said, "Hanuman, there you go. Go and tell Sita that you are there for Rama, that you are here to save her." And with that, the good husband sat back down in his seat and listened to the rest of the story, listened to how Hanuman gave Sita the ring, and that there was a great battle, and that there were heroes, and that there were demons. And by the end of the tale, lovers were reunited and kings were crowned. And the wife, she looked at her husband, who had heard every word of the story, lived every word of the story, knew that he had finally learnt how to listen to a story, and now truly held all the culture and wisdom that stories hold. And so the next time that you start to feel your eyelids drop, you start to feel that story drifting away, hold on, for you never know what adventures might lay before you.